Hello, and welcome to Storytelling Live. This week is another great story from Back to Paris. This one is from Fiercer Monsters, and the book is available still from order it from the nomadic site. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. That publisher is on fire lately. They've been doing so many cool things. They just launched a cohort of chapbooks and a massive reading. It was extremely successful. They're sponsoring a prize competition in the Bay Area. Gotta get you some, man. Get you some. So this one is Elvis, King of Cats. And it's another story near and dear to my heart. It's practically autobiographical. If you get me in private with a beer in hand, I might tell you what happened. I'll tell you. I'll just give you a clue. When I was living in Paris and in Lille, I was, because of my Moroccan face, I was harassed by police and authorities. It was not cool. But, okay, some things happened that I'll never forget. I was in my 20s with a leather jacket and long hair, running around Paris speaking French like I was born there. It was fun. I had cast off my past growing up in the Arizona desert, which happened to be a lot like parts of Morocco, believe it or not. It was same latitude. It's like I grew up in Morocco. I mean, Phoenix is kind of a Casablanca. So, anyway, some crazy things happened today, and I'm just still trying to shake that off. Let's just preliminary notes. I wrote this story with looking at a map of Paris, but also knowing that in every street you turn in Paris, there's a historical event there, and more often than not, a massacre there because of the revolutions that have happened throughout the streets of Paris, central Paris. Not the banlieue. I'm talking about the heart of the city that has undergone so many things and so many, so many revolutions and so many kings and the blood of kings and queens and people. And cats. The blood of cats. I didn't know that until I wrote the story, that there was a cat massacre in Saint-Séverin. I had no idea. Elvis the cat knows. And he'll tell you about it right now. Been face up to the rain for an hour or more early this morning. My cot's tight around my elbows. My window is a clear plastic square framed in aluminum, cut right into a roof that slants sharply down one wall of my tiny room, which used to be a maid's quarters. The window is held open by its closure. I can barely reach my head through, but when I do, all the rooftops of Paris are splayed out in front of me like a medieval etching. I watch the rain and imagine I am inside it. The liquid silver squeezes out of puffy floating dragons, silent, sliding, some bluer than others, creating puddles in the streets deep enough to strand a car. I live in a quarter called America, in the 19th arrondissement. So, of course, I call myself an American. It's close to the Place des Grandes Rigoles, off the Rue des Pyrénées. Rigoles are laugh, and Pyrénées are mountains. Life here should be a rollicking laugh-minute romp as I jump from mountaintop to mountaintop. Guess what? Rigole actually refers to ditches as well. And Pirene is the name of a young woman who was conquered by the drunken cow-thieving Hercules on one of his missions. And these are her mountains. Paris placed the street of Pyrenees mountains next to the laughing ditches. In fact, this area is shunned by most of Paris. I will not walk down those streets by day or by night, they say. Really, we're all Africans here. Maghrébins. Maghrebi. France occupied Algeria and made protectorates of Morocco and Tunisia. They came. They conquered. They left. Now, we're left with a few street names and some trucks rusting in the sand. Once we get to France with higher hopes, we live like this, and I live off the tiny park of ditches next to the inebriated conquering grasp of Hercules. But never mind him. He's a leader of the catastrophe, and I am Elvis, king of cats. A little song jumps into my head for an otherwise grim morning. But I'm good, okay, and so what? They say. You know I'm ready to slay because I am the starchy grin, tin-can raider, and never mind the criminal man, I'm Elvis, king of cats. Yeah, I fly around the roundabouts on my motorbike, Pepe La Moto. Beep beep, you jerk, pesky for you, clean escape for me. I'm Elvis, king of cats. I head straight for the mad gangs of pigeons, and away they fly, frantic razor cloud in the air, flying and diving there, up and a ways, up and a ways, up and a ways. Damn you fool pigeons, why settle down in the same place? You know I'm coming back, no park is safe. I'ma come find you, I'm Elvis, king of cats. Right on, a song is born. I'm staring into my eyeball, and a dream comes back at me through the mirror. I dreamt that I had lost my eyes, but that I could still see somehow. And someone had bought me fake ones, with fake eyes, with an applicator. I sat on the floor and looked at the applicator, a long plastic tube. I looked at the eyeballs, and one was looking back at me, and the other one was looking off in its own direction. I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to put that eyeball into my head without some help. And how will my eyelid wrap around that thing? And should I suck on the eyeball first and then pop it in? Get it wet, kind of moist. And it came to me that my eyes were actually kind of vulvas. And that these eyeballs are face babies. So my waking mind mulls over this as I smooth comb my jet black pompadour. Glass eyes would be more like foster babies, right? Wouldn't they? Are eyelids like lips for two extra head mouths? Are eyeballs reborn every time we blink? Is that like when we open our eyes, are our eyeballs born? And if we blink, are the eyeballs reborn? Or is it reality that's reborn? What if our environment is potentially refreshed every time we blink? And all of reality, when we wake from sleep, right? So sleep would be a chance to regroup, to forgive, to forget, like death, but a smaller death. And therefore, death would be the complete reset and renewal. Well, no breakfast. There's no food here anyway. I have a tiny fridge. It holds a crusty chunk of butter and a quarter jar of mustard. I'm through with eating. Most food makes me ill in one way or another. I am undersized. Let's just say that I live on black leather and pomade. My pomp is long and circumstances are short. That's what I tell myself. I keep a little radio tuned to a station that plays American oldies all day long. I mispronounce words, or rather, my words come out malfunction. due to a minor stroke I had in my 20s, which prohibited me from full-time work. The part of my tongue is immobile. The government pitched in for a while. I was on medical leave. Soon after, I was enlisted part-time for a regional civic project to protect and feed feral cats. Then the government abolished the program, but most people still know me in that capacity. I like it. I get donations of kibble from friends, and once in a while the butcher will give me a scrap or two, but I must be careful. A woman was recently fined over 500 euros for feeding the cats. It's 12 levels down to the street from my tiny pad under the roof. Once for maid, now La Casa de Funk. I got this thing dialed. James Dean posters, Bogart, Brando, little still from Wild Bunch, Bukowski, little typewriter from my daydreams, on a 2x3 desk built into the wall hanging over the foot of my bed. For my place, getting upstairs could be a chore. But going down is a calculated breeze. It's a lot of stairs with one continuous wooden oval banister snaking down the whole way, propped by a fence of iron bars. A lesson in perspective. I kicked my little black Pepe Lamoto into action. Out of here. Down the way. Rue de Rigaud. Past the Père Lachaise where they finished off the communards. Burning down the Roquette on my way to the Bastille. How many people have died by the side of this road? Depot of the depot of the condemned, they called the prison on the Roquette. Paris whips by me as I tuck and dive between cars, bicycles, and pedestrians. I lean into the turns at the corners and roundabouts. I shoot at the pigeons with my finger. I downshift with Pepe and work my way past a delivery truck that blocks my view, rocking and rolling, cruising and bruising. I stop by the butcher to see what he has for the kitties today. Oh yeah, but he saved a little treat. Now back to the grid. The mangled network of streets and tributaries of Paris is a sardonic monument to colonialism and medieval despair, as well as a passing commemoration of ingenuity. Burgundy Massacre of 1418, Marie Antoinette, Robespierre, Danton, Revolutions of Blood, Napoleon, Haussmann, Revolutions of Stone and Blocks. Paris is constantly washed in the blood of its people. Buildings are blown up or pulled down to make way for the new. The mine was cut deeper under the underpinnings of Paris for building materials. Then Paris dug up the dead and stacked them inside in fastidious piles, creating a labyrinth of the dead. The fumes of death permeate up through moist and glittering concentric pavers. Sorbonne students dug those pavers out with their bare hands and threw them at police in 1968. I passed Boulevard Voltaire. Up to the right is Bataclan. I continue to Rue Saint-Antoine, Fourcy, Ile Saint-Louis, Pont Saint-Louis. Notre-Dame Cathedral is the pupil of Paris. The périphérique outlines the eye. Structure, rupture, rubble, displacement, replacement. As I speed down the streets, I can almost feel them being ripped up to the sky in my wake. Pavers flying dirt, exposed tree roots, baby carriages, rabble and revolutions, pedestrians in black, all flying upward because Paris must blink to refresh her reality, wetting her streets with the blood of her people. I could feel a blast and glass showers from every corner restaurant. People cross the street in a hunker as if they too are ducking. The sky clears. I park my bike and stare at the backside of Notre Dame. She has furry spider legs and a chambered abdomen. She was here when Paris was still connected by footpaths, when Saint-Germain was really a prairie. She watched the whole city begin. She witnessed the infamous cat massacre of Saint-Severin. This park has a few trees, little green benches that are sublime in the sunshine, orange gravel everywhere. The kitties come running. I have fresh ground chicken heart in my pocket. They don't care. They don't care. There's a situation. Behind the cathedral, by the fence, behind a bench, there's a tiny hole. I think they want me to hunt for rabbits with them. I get down, start digging. They wait in anticipation. A small crowd of tourists collect around me. I widen the hole and pull out a little kitten. Her mother takes her by the neck and crates her off. I find another kitten. Fifth, a different cat picks that one up. I pick out a final tiny kitten, and the mother is back to carry this one off. Relief. The cats will eat their snacks now. Such a little drama. The crowd claps. They offer me money. I take a few bucks, and I bow. I'm aware of the police looking on. I say, thank you very much. And just then, a rabbit bounds out of the hole, and the cats run after it. It's all gone in a blur of fur, whiskers, and plumes of dust. I walk Pepe to the Latin Quarter. Red La Huchette. Little jerks low on fuel. They do not sell gas around here. Here is where I post flyers I make for bands. Here's the street of smashed plates, the tiny street of meat roasters, the street most famous for jazz. Everyone likes my flyers. The heads of the musicians are suspended in a field of black ink. They're cheap, but it gets the point across. I walk Pepe. Someone taps me on the shoulder. A heavily armed young soldier asks me for my name. I tell him I'm Elvis, King of Cats. He says he needs my real name. I tell him my real name. He asks for my papers. I have nothing on me. Everyone knows me. I say I have papers at home. Who are you? They ask again. I tell them again who I am. They search my pockets. They find blood on my hand from the chicken heart. They whisk me to the station and shut me in a back room. What they say is ridiculous. I demand to see my representative. They laugh. They tell me to open my bag. I have a small backpack. They want me to empty my pockets. I have a few pockets. They're empty. I have cat food. I have the remains of a chicken heart, blood in my pocket. They exchange looks of curiosity and disgust. Then order me to take off my clothes. I take off my shirt. I'm shouting. They're smiling. I'm horribly skinny, like a small camel, like a mouse camel. I take off my pants. My buttocks look like a camel's hoof. That's how Hermann Hesse describes Siddhartha Gautama. I am the Parisian street Buddha. I am not the Algerian drug hustler they think I am. They order me to turn around. I turn my back to them. They have me spread my cheeks apart. My stomach is sick. They grab me by the neck and lower my head. They put one of my legs up on a chair so I'm fully exposed. They tell me to cough. I do not cough. They insist. I cough. I hear a door open. There's a man 2 rooms back, peering into my backside from his desk. I do not understand. Cough! They say all at once. I cough. I tell them they will hear from my representative, and they laugh at me. They take me to a holding cell, throw my clothes at me. It's ironically larger than my apartment. I'm released a few hours later. My bag and my jacket are lying on the table. They've opened everything up. My bag, my jacket, my clothes, everything is in shreds. But they've taken everything apart, stitch by stitch. My backpack and every tiny part is spread across a large table. My jacket is in shreds. It looks like ribbons. They escort me to the street. I put my jacket on defiantly and zip it up, although the back twirls open. I can get Pepe later, they say. I take the metro home, and it's a long, slow walk back home. I make it upstairs, and I'm resting in my apartment, again, toying with the radio. I stick my head out the window. I'm standing on the desk. I'm gazing at the streets below me. There's a new station. I'm playing a bizarre song, so I crank it. Eternal city of mud, I hear you calling my name. From your crusty ruse to the pit of your stage, and I'm awash in your crowds, and I'm searching for food. But if your streets are a jungle, then I must be a coward. Your animals bray in the thick summer night. I hear the fur of your skin, the teeth in your skull. Where your streets collide, I am treading the walls. I put on my old brown coat. Go downstairs to feed the cats in the Place des Grands Rigoles. Little bastards don't know what happened today. I'm thinking about taking that walk, finally, in the allée south of Rue de Moussaïa. They say there's a law written in the streets. It's a walking route. The streets themselves form the words. So pedestrians follow a route to trace the word Allah. So the walker as pen. It's interesting. Tonight, I will see for myself. I'm getting dressed in the late night to follow you home, pasting down my hair so I can lure you in. Brittle moon high above a black frozen bone. On my way, I see a large, long-haired, glowing white cat. She sees me too. And I follow. We're running down the streets in the direction of the Allah. I'm excited to see what this is about. The streets of Paris do not only recall history, but by their proximity to one another, they comment upon it. This section of streets forms a Roman temple with a spire, the Rue de Fraternité, that points up to the star intersection of the Metro Danube. It leads down to the peak of the roof, Rue de la Liberté and Rue de l'Égalité. Villa du Progrès is the main support beam in the center of the roof. Rue de Moussaïa forms the base of the roof and completes the triangle. I hear the radio on. It tells me what to say. Bleeding down on the pavement, now you're leading me on. Between the towers of clay, you put your good friend down, flooded deep and wide under a mouthy shine. Moussaïa is the name of a city in Algeria. The Paris code of the streets has crowned Moussaïa with liberté, fraternité, and égalité. South of the roof is a special section of walkways called the villas, and these are the columns for the temple. They go like this. The Roman temple sits on a street called Bellevue. Beautiful vista. This is so ironic that I'm smiling again as I approach the small pilgrimage. You're all over the pavement, you crazy thing, moving towers of clay and an antique smile. I am contrasense, so I must run up to Rue de Moussaïa and find the Villa des Lilas. Lilacs seem innocent enough. I must run south in the direction of the first calligraphic stroke. Aha! I see a small golden tile pressed into the plaster at eye level, midway in the wall. Aleph. It's the Aleph. Allah. I run to the Rue de Bellevue. Then I take Villa Sadi Carnot. Oh no, wait. Who was that? Who was that? Master of Explosions. That's Sadi Carnot. I return to Rue de Moussaïa. There are tiny mirrors embedded in the wall, indicating Hamza, Lionheart, brave, strong, fair. Now I must walk in a loop. Then Villa de Bellevue. Lamb, benevolent. It is connected to the next, Lamb. On Emile Loubet, midway down, there's mist and rain. The glowing cat is at the end of the alley across the Rue of Moussaïa. I must follow Shadda, female twins, fragrance of flowers. I see the mirrors. I tap them. Crumbs of plaster fall. I walk in 2 semicircles. It feels like dancing. I move my arms. I see an arrow on the sidewalk pointing north to the St. Francis of Assisi Church. Why the church? The glowing cat is up ahead. Behind the church, in the middle of the blank wall, are painted 6 small blue daggers. No more than 3 inches high, almost unnoticeable, but I see them. Why? Why? dagger olive, the sixth stroke in the writing of the name of Allah. Praised be his name, of course. Are the Catholics complicit with this walking route? Well, St. Francis of Assisi accepted all humans, all animals. There's no cure for a repeal when all you ever do is shine. I hear muffled screams. It's Hercules and Piran again, and his hands are made of mist. They slide into her clothing. He will make her famous unless I stop this madness. I grab a bent umbrella from the trash and run at him. His back is enormous. I hit it, and the coat falls empty onto Piran. No, it's not her. It's the glowing cat. And I've killed her. I must look for the final stroke of Allah. The letter Ha, truth. Where in this city is truth? And how did that cat get under a coat? I am in tears. I go on my way. The route for Ha forces me to enter one building, go out the back door, and come back through another building. There's a doorman at the second building, and he says good evening. And I say nothing. He says it again. I turn and nod. He looks at me, sees my face, my long pompadour and sideburns, my old coat. I run. He runs after me. He calls for police. I run down the Rue de Rigole, and my footsteps ricochet off the buildings like disembodied laughter. He has dropped off. I hear sirens, but Paris is full of hee-hawing sirens, and I am very tired. It's time to end this. I make it to my tiny room. I take off my wet layers, but keep my t-shirt on and put on my soft flannel pajama bottoms. I need to sleep, to reset, and even, perhaps, to forgive. When I am reborn, I know I will be a country that can never be named. Well, it's a very short story. Oh, goodness gracious. Now you're asking me to do something I wasn't prepared to do. But I'll give you something. Let's see if I can call it up quickly enough on my computer. Where? So here is a very bizarre story that has no syntax, or maybe it does. I don't know if it's a way of telling a story with a series of metaphors. And probably the less I tell you about it, the better it's going to be. Everything is less than it seems. But it's a tiny fable. And perhaps there's a takeaway. And it's also from Fiercer Monsters. And you should take a look at this yourself and try to read it out loud. It's called This Is How the Story Goes. This is exactly how the story goes. This is how it rang like a firefly at the corners of church houses and dormitories. Here's what they said to one another for 3 millennia, shouted from the backs of camels, spoken with the eyes through peepholes in backyard walls. Here is the story as the people told it to one another over dinner and late nights, charming the tangerine moons, all honey and butter in gentle summer wind. There once was born in a tiny village not so far away a very young man with an extremely short left leg, which may not have presented such a problem had his right leg not been so superhumanly long. For many years he scuttled it behind him like fleshy refuse, yelling at the air, saying, "This pond is opportune lollygagging. Time has cut mustard sauce in half with you. Window-dried salty figurines." And the people passed and followed in their routines, for in his age The streets were filled with places to go and more things to think about than just bread and clean water. The very young men had lanterns in the imagination which give way to foggy streets, or sunshine spires, which with each step so fretfully impeding his journey through town, his father and mother worried not, for their concern was bicycle repair in the closets of clients with full gardens and lace in the window. But his troubles were troubling, and the questions arose. Yet the others never bothered, so he inquired within. Within he heard knocking, rattling like footsteps, perhaps the clumsy tap dance of a proprietor, but who owned the interior? Maybe the chairs skidded backward, and the horns blared in frustration, but the heat never left, and the clouds kept on building. Yes, he yelled in consequence, torn gullets and water creatures! The tortoise never appears, only the lake valley yawns and stares at the girdle, a fish, a bear, the jackal in underwear. Popcorn science and stolen quilts made of lollipops. I have eggs in my pocket, damned if I use them. Chicanery is kindness. The healing dog's touch throughout my heart. I must learn to leap. The very young man then closed his eyes deep. His misty towels at the shelter were distributed among the service and hobbled on their way back down to the yard to bake in the sun before thunderstorms arrived. Meanwhile, perhaps as somebody no one looked on in curiosity, but then lowered her chin, as if asking the spirit to render her pregnant from her work with the sheets on the bed in the room on the farm, in the middle of the times when visitors passed and gave up their thanks at the table laden with teas and cakes of the forefathers, diagonal beams falling from the window, cleansing the plates and shooting the ceiling. A breakfast of black cocoa and water, a skinless banana, books that spread like confetti, the children of pages, amusement frames ticking slowly by through drapes and soft music. Alliances confusing. Somewhere from the mud came up a bubble, and then all was static. The toy horse of reason, moth in a flame, molten saliva. Sky weeps responding. The very young man had everything determined, his walking straight fancy and vanilla windmills recorded. His outsides were flopping, and his innards milked snake fangs. The windowless walls looked down in amusement. Buildings behind street lamps leaned in to support him. Anywhere would he go with impulses flaring to brave new moons and a crusty horizon. Either explore or perish. This was determination. So, for days he disassembled mattresses in far rooms of the household, mother and father away on their work horsing, and of them he built a crust with a balloon at the center, some carved marble, and sweet crackers with gangway planks, chandeliers, and snowy down layers among them. Of gold and silver he spun and spun a nest so deep the caverns held darkness with full sun splitting over. The caverns still held darkness with full sun splitting over. Bridges he wrought, with towers that carried shoulders of flag-wrapped heroes. Here he was nestled in the core of his bosom on a settling sky, a midnight couch. It was the hermit pause, spirit doze. And on one morning, his mind was reborn. Games, traced in dirt, lit up like the chalkboard of a sunroom. Emergence of plaster walls sopped with unreason and disbelief, sagging flowers on paper, sun on the land, the moist stress of rebirth. Here lay fortune. First step as a man, nude, plausible, erect, right leg as tremendously long as it ever was, left leg curiously stumpy, but yet in the now was his skull, both rolled back and absorbent. Now ready, walk in princely manner, completely painted elder, master, hunter, collector, washboard bender, royal stepper, holy roller. His first coup counted so extremely much to the lay-awake world in its fervent ever-roundness. Prim streets jutting at the edges, sprouted pudgy babies laughing and loving mothers chest fanning. The bicycle pedestrians parted like the wake of a ferry driving clear waters, bound for sandy shores of foreign lands, trees baking in air, horses scurrying to a hole in the building. Sunned roofs of his village shone like wheat field grasses blowing clay beds that tighten, where ancient jungles flatten, exposing jeweled beauty marks and clear rivers, and from there the very young man telegraphed his works, rolling through the streets of his town, sharing purest form, saying, "These succulent pearls come from clouds cut like dried tears. Share, love, proliferate, live, alive, give, forgive. We are now cloud collaboration, Eliyahu." And the tale spun on for centuries, whipping like leopards foraging deep underwater, dancing like branches of linden maidens, fancy free and taffeta turning for hours, sparkling flame tops, chimneys in the walls, hanging gardens of Babylon, like water through towns laying drunk on light pressed flat by the baking sky. At last, pain moratorium. Forests of castles shook to the rhythm of purity steps taken from this point onward, exactly as the story goes, for the very young man, with his flexible beating heart of newborn acceptance. Well, that wraps it up for another very short storytelling live. Thank you for your time and attention. Maybe I will run through the book and read some shorter things and some longer things. I'm not sure. So we'll see how it goes. And thank you again. Be well. Stay safe. Be healthy. Find a way to hug one another. And good night.